class. Welcome to today's economics lesson. Today, we are going to explore one of the most important concepts in economics, how buyers and sellers interact in the markets. Think about the last time you went to a market or a shop. What did you see? Who was buying? Who was selling? And how did they exchange goods for money? By the end of this lesson, you will understand exactly how these interactions work and why they are so important to our economy. Let's get started. We are looking at section 2, markets and demand. Strand, we consider the strand consumer decision making. Sub-strand, demand for goods and services. And the focal area 1, the role of buyers and sellers in a market. Here we are our learning objective for today. By the end of this lesson, we should be able to 1, understand the roles of buyers and sellers in a market. Here what we mean is that what do buyers do? What do sellers do? These are different but equal important roles that you must know. And 2, describe how exchange happens between buyers and sellers. And this is the heart of any market, the exchange of goods and services for payment. And last but not least, apply these concepts to real life market situations. We are not just learning theory today. We are connecting this to your everyday life, your school canteen, your local market, or even online shopping. Keep these objectives in mind as you move through the lesson. Consider this physical market in Kumasi, that is Kumasi Central Market, before the new redevelopment or the new construction. You can also talk of Makala in Accra. That's a physical market that we are looking at. Look at the picture carefully as you go to the next. And the question is, it's a fundamental question. What is a market? A market is not just a physical place like KGTR market, as I showed you in Kumasi or Mokala market in Accra. A market is any place, any space, physical or virtual, where buyers and sellers come together to exchange goods, services, or assets. Look at these images. You see a maize market where a woman is selling maize to a young boy. The boy is buying a maize from a woman. Watch this carefully, and let's go to the second one, vegetables market. Here you see an exchange between 2 women, one selling and one buying. And you have seen that there's an exchange over there. One is giving and one is taking the good. The woman has already taken the good and is paying it. The next one is Inshira Enterprise. It's a food vendor selling fried eggs, bread, and drinks to customers. All these are examples of markets. But markets aren't limited to physical space anymore. Today, you can buy goods online through platforms like Jumia or Amazon without ever leaving your home. That is also a market. Consider this picture. That is online shopping. It's also part of a market. The key point is that Whenever buyers and sellers meet to exchange goods and services, there's a market. And every market has two essential groups of people, buyers and sellers. Let's explore their roles. And before that, let's consider this picture. Insurance enterprise seen with customers in the queue. We see customers standing in the queue at insurance enterprise. These customers, those who are in the queue, are buyers. They have come to the market with money and they want to exchange that money for food and drinks. Now let's talk about buyers. Who are buyers? Buyers are individuals, organizations, or entities that purchase goods or services from sellers. Let's let's look at the other side of the market, the sellers. Then comes the question, who are sellers? Sellers are individuals, businesses, or entities that offer goods or services for sale to buyers in exchange for payment. Remember, we saw a picture where a woman was selling maize to a young man. The woman there was a seller. He has produced or sold maize and he's offering it for sale in the market. Now, the key point you have to know so far is whenever buyers and sellers meet to exchange goods and services, there's a market. And every market has two essential groups of people, buyers and sellers. And let's explore the role that they play in the market. Here are highlighted three important roles of buyers. First, buyers spend their income or money to buy commodities. They come to the market with a budget and they decide what to buy based on their needs and preferences. Second, buyers ensure the quality of goods and services. They inspect what they are buying. If the bread is stale or the drink is expired, they might refuse to buy it. Buyers give sellers feedback about quality. Last but not the least, buyers negotiate prices with seller. Have you ever haggled or bargained at a market? That's a buyer negotiating. Buyers try to get the best value for their money. Here is an important point you must take note of. Buyers aim to maximize their satisfaction from consuming goods and services. They want to get the most value from their limited income. This is called maximizing utility or satisfaction. Let's also consider the roles of sellers in the market. Here, I'm also going to highlight three roles played by the sellers in the market. One, sellers make goods and services available in the market. Without sellers, there will be nothing to buy. Sellers transfer goods or render services to buyers in exchange for payment. Another role of sellers is that they decide on prices. Sellers consider their cost the market demand, and competition when setting prices. They want to charge a price that covers their costs and gives a profit. Third, they advertise and promote their products. As part of advertising and promoting their product, they might use social media, newspapers, television, that of information centers of late, or billboards to make buyers aware of what they are selling. In the market, they might arrange their goods attractively or call out to customers. And here is a key point that you must also take note under the roles of sellers. Sellers aim to maximize their profits. They want to sell as much as possible at the highest price the market will bear. But they also need to attract buyers, so they must balance profit with customer satisfaction. Now let's consider this picture again. Woman selling maize at the market. Now let's understand how the exchange actually happens. This is the heart of every market transactions. Here you see the woman giving the maize to the young boy. Why? Because the boy has decided he wants to buy that good. And as such, he's willing to pay the price the seller is asking. The two, you look at the seller gives the good or the service to the buyer. The seller receives payment and transfer ownership of the good or service to the buyer. So if you look at the image, it shows a buyer giving money to a seller and receiving change. This is a real market exchange happening. Here, what happened is important to understand. Both parties benefit from the exchange. This is called voluntary exchange. The buyer wouldn't buy if they didn't think the good was worth the price. The seller wouldn't sell if they didn't think the price covered their costs and gave them a profit. So look at this process here, exchange process. The flow chart over there. You see the buyer with money giving it to the seller who has the goods. And the seller in turn receive the money and buyer receive the goods in exchange. Both parties benefit from the exchange. Before I go to this, let me give you a rare example. Imagine you go to school canteen, you have 5 Ghana cedis. The canteen sells a meat pie for 3 Ghana cedis. You decide to buy it because you are hungry, and you think 3 cedis is a fair price for a meat pie. The canteen owners sell it to you because they make a profit on that sale. Both of you are happy. That's a successful market exchange. This is why market work. Both buyers and sellers benefit. Now let's look at a real life example. Nee Smart Pages. It's a story about a young man named Nee. He wants to buy a new smartphone. His current phone is old and does not meet his needs anymore. He has a budget of 1,005 Ghana cedis. Nee visits an electronics store and finds 3 smartphones within or near his budget. And he has 3 branded phones over there. The brand A costs 1,002 Ghana cedis. And these are the features of that phone. It has a decent camera, adequate storage, and a moderate processor. It's affordable, but it lacks some features Ni wants. Don't forget that Ni has 1,005. The brand B costs 1,005 Ghana cedis. It has a high quality camera, which is better than A, ample storage, and a fast processor. This is exactly at Ni's budget. Let's look at C. Brand C costs 1,008 Ghana cedis. It has an excellent camera, large storage capacity, and a powerful processor. It is the best phone, but it's beyond Ni's budget. What does Ni do? He chooses plan B. So if you look at the slide there, B is tick and written there chosen. Why? Because it strikes a balance between price and features. He gets the qualities he needs at a price he can afford. He stays within his budget and gets good value. Notice what Ni did here. He made a trade-off. By choosing brand B, he gained the features he wanted, but he gave up the extra premium features of brand C. He also gave up the cost saving of brand A, but he gained better features. This is how buyers think in the market. They consider their price, quality, features, and their budget. They make decisions based on what gives them the most satisfaction for their money. This is rational buyer behavior. Example 2, real life example 2, Ajua Craftsman's Market. Crafts Market. Ajua sells handmade crafts. That is hand weaving baskets and colorful beaded jewelry. He decided to sell her products at a local craft market to reach more customers and earn income from her creative talents. Ajua sets up her store at the craft market and displays her product attractively. He prices her items as follows. Hand weaving basket go for 30 Ghana cedis each, and the beaded jewelry cost 20 cedis per piece. And we want to see how did Ajua come by this? What did he consider? The factors that went in deciding the price. First, he talked about the time that went in, the effort and materials he invested in creating each item. A hand weaving basket takes hours to make, so he needs a price that reflects that work. Second, he considered market demand and competition. In the market, there is no only Ajua who is selling crafts, the weeded hand weaving baskets, and that of beaded jewelry. The others who are also selling. So you look at what other vendors were charging for similar items. She wanted her prices to be competitive, not too high that customers won't buy, but high enough to make a profit. And the third thing that he considered is he employed marketing strategies to attract customers. In order to do that, he arranged her crafts creatively, used colorful displays, and engaged potential buyers with a friendly demeanor. He explained the unique aspect of a handmade products, highlighting their durability and cultural significance. Notice what Ajua did here. She made a trade-off as a seller by setting a price for her products. She forgoes potential sales at higher or lower prices. She faces competition from other vendors. Her pricing strategy aims to balancing attracting customers and earning profits. This is how sellers think in a market. They consider cost, demand, competition, and profit. They make decisions based on what will maximize their profit while still attracting customers. And look at Ajoa's marketing strategy he listed, as I mentioned them over here. Creative displays. He arranged his item in such a way that when you see it as a customer, you will by all means be attracted to his stand or his store. Friendly engaging with customers as they pass by, highlighting the uniqueness of his products and handcrafted aspects of what he's selling in the market. Now, having gone through this, we want to know factors that affect buyers' behavior as they get to the market. We are looking at what influences buyer decision in a market. And by so doing, I have these five factors, that I want us to consider. The first is price. Every buyer who goes to the market will consider the price. Is it affordable? Here we are looking at affordability. If he's in a position to buy or not. So the buyer consider whether they can afford the good. Price is probably the most important factor, especially for people with limited income. This is why Ni had a budget of 1,005 Ghana cedis. You couldn't spend more than that. The second is the quality. You're looking at the durability as well as reliability. Buyers want goods that are durable and reliable. They don't want to buy something that will break after a few weeks. So quality matters. And the third, they look at brand, reputations, trust, and what have you. Buyers prefer certain brands because they trust the brand's reputation. When it comes to electronics, people trust, some of them trust Samsung, others Panasonic, when it comes to they've got two blasters and what have you. So brand counts. They believe a well-known brand will give them better quality. In our case, can talk of Benetton fans. Fourth, we look at features, what the product does. Buyers consider what the product can do. He compare the cameras, the storage, and process of different phones because these features matter to him. Features is also one of the things that consumers or buyers consider or influences their decision making in the market. The fifth, that the last but not the least, personal preferences. Buyers have different tastes and styles. Some people prefer Android phones, others prefer iPhones. Some people like bright colors, others prefer neutral tones. All these factors combine to influence a buyer decision. Different buyers weight these factors differently. One buyer might prioritize price over all else. Another might prioritize quality. Understand these factors help us understand buyer behavior in markets. So in the case of me, smartphone decision, it connects to these factors. Let's also consider the other side of the market, which is the sellers. What influences sellers' decision in the market? Let me highlight 5 key factors that buyers also consider sellers. First, input cost. Sellers consider that the material cost, the labor cost, If the cost of material goes up, sellers might need to raise their prices to maintain their profits. Adjo consider the cost of material for a basket and jewelry. The next factor that influences them is what? Market demand. How much buyers want. That's market demand. Sellers consider how much buyers want their products. If demand is high, sellers can charge higher prices. If demand is low, they might need to lower prices in order to attract buyers. The third is competition. Sellers consider what other sellers are charging. If competitors are charging lower prices, a seller might need to lower their price too, or find a way to differentiate their products. Adjoa faces competition from other craft vendors. The next is production technology. Here we are looking at what? Efficiency. Sellers consider how efficiently they can produce goods. Better technology can reduce costs and allow sellers to charge lower prices and make higher profits. The 11th release, we look at profit margins, that is revenue minus cost. How much did it cost you in produce or buying that thing to sell? And how much did you sell? The difference will give you the profit. So if the difference between the revenue is too wide, it means that you are making a higher profit. And vice versa. Sellers want to maximize their profit. So profit is revenue minus cost, as I just said. Sellers aim to find a price that maximizes their total profit, not just the price per unit. All these factors combine to influence a seller decision. So if you look at Adjoa's pricing decision, it connects to these factors. Sellers are constantly making calculations. What price will maximize my profit? What quantity should I produce? How can I attract more customers? Understanding these factors help us understand seller behavior in markets. Now let's turn our attention to another important concept you must understand. Here we're looking at the difference between normal goods and inferior goods. This relates to how buyers' behavior changes when their income changes. A normal good is a type of economic good for which demand increases as income rises and decreases as customer income falls. Assuming all other factors remain constant, talk of taste, talk of preferences, talk of other price of other related commodities and the like. If all these factors are constants. Example, we talk about the smartphones, quality clothing, fresh fruits, what have you. When your income increases, you are more likely to buy these items. When your income decreases, you buy less of them. And in place, you buy other goods. Inferior goods. Inferior goods is an inferior good. An inferior good is a type of economic good for which demand decreases as income rises and increases as consumer income falls, assuming all other factors remain constant. Price of related commodities, preferences, population, and what have you. Example, we look at instant noodles, second-hand clothing or clothes. Talk about bend down boutique, which you call force. When you know one shiny high, or cheaper alternatives. In other words, when people earn more money, they buy less of these goods and switch to better alternatives. Example of inferior goods, as I just said, instant noodles, second-hand clothing, cheap alternative to primary products. When your income is low, you might buy instant noodles, you might buy second-hand clothing, which you call faux, bend down boutique, when you don't want high, because they are cheap. But when your income increases, you must switch to more expensive and higher quality foods. Maybe buying rice, fried rice, and chicken. Or in the case of clothes, we're going to boutique to buy those latest dresses that are on board. Here's a rare example from Ghana. When someone's income is low, they might buy garri and beans. But when their income increases, they might buy rice and chicken instead. The garri and beans are inferior goods in this case. Demand for them decreases, income increases. Understanding normal and inferior goods help us predict how buyer behavior will change when economic conditions change. Let me summarize today's lesson by way of looking at these key takeaways from today's lesson. First, markets are where buyers and sellers exchange goods and services. Markets can be physical or virtual, but they all serve the same purpose, bringing buyers and sellers together. That's the purpose of markets. So take note of that as a takeaway. Number two, buyers aim to maximize satisfaction from their limited income, while sellers aim to maximize profit. These are different goals, but they both drive market behavior. The third, both parties benefit from voluntary exchange. Buyers wouldn't buy if they didn't think the good was worth the price. Sellers wouldn't sell if they didn't think the price covered their costs and gave them a profit. This mutual benefit is what makes market work. The fourth one is that buyer and seller behavior is influenced by multiple factors. The case of the buyer, price of the commodity, quality of the good, the brand, the features, and personal preferences. In the case of the seller, input cost, that's the cost of labor, the cost of raw materials, and what have you, market demand, competition, production technology, and profit margin. Fifth, understanding market helps us understand the economy. Markets are the foundation of economic activity. By understanding how buyers and sellers behave, we can understand how prices are determined, how resources are allocated, and how economies grow. These concepts will be important as we continue studying economics. We will build on them when we learn about demand, supply, and price determination. Now we want to look at what you have to reflect as we are closing. Before we finish, I want you to reflect on what you have learned today. First, what was the most interesting thing you learned today? Was it the concept of normal and inferior goods? The theory of need buying a smartphone? The idea of trade-offs? Think about what resonated with you. The second is, how will you use this knowledge in your daily life? The next time you go to a market or a shop, think about what you have learned. Observe the buyers and sellers. Notice the exchange happening. See if you can identify the factors influencing their behavior. And last but not the least, what questions do you still have? If there is something you don't understand, don't hesitate to ask. Economics is about understanding the real world. The real world is complex. It's okay to have questions. Here is the big idea. Markets are everywhere. They are in your school canteen, your local market, online shopping platforms, and even your classroom when you trade lunch items with friends. Now you know how they work. You understand the rules of buyers and sellers. You understand the exchange process. You understand the factors that influence behavior. This knowledge will help you make better decisions as a buyer, and if you become a seller, help you make better business decisions. This brings to the end of the lesson. Thank you for paying attention and participation today. Great work. Bye.